All right. Hi, Fiona. Nice to see you.
Hi, Natalie. Really delighted to be speaking with you today.
Oh, I'm really glad that you could come and join me. So, you're coming to speak to me today for the series that I do called This Week in Clinic. And we are into our second series now, and this is our second episode. Welcome, welcome. This series is all really about demystifying therapy, so helping people to understand what we do as psychologists, helping to see who we are, what we're like, what we think about when we see people in clinic, the kinds of work that we do with people, and also how we look after our own mental health as well. You know, if we kind of walk the walk as well as talk the talk. And so really that's the aim of these conversations, because lots of people are considering seeking help or are already. And sometimes it's a little bit daunting and you don't know whether to make the investment, you don't know whether it's right, you're not really sure. And I guess I'm very mindful, Fiona, I'll introduce you in a moment, but I'm mindful that your clinic operates slightly different to mine. So just to say, so Fiona, I'll ask you to introduce yourself in a moment, but to say you're a business psychologist. So I'm a clinical psychologist, you're a business psychologist. These terms get confusing for people, I know. But actually you help your clients with things like self-doubt, working on their skill set to feel confident about playing huge in life and in work. You've got lots of experience in IT, telecoms, non-profits, and you're also a member of the Association for Business Psychology and an author of How to Increase Your Confidence, which sounds great. So I know that you help leaders fulfill their potential in business, and that you just really enjoy working with your clients on things like imposter syndrome, which I think we all feel a little bit of every now and again, and to be more visible, to be more impactful. So I guess that's saying that your clinic might look different to mine, but at the same time, there's a huge crossover there, isn't there, in terms of the people that I might see for therapy around self-confidence or fears or concerns or difficult behaviours or behaviours that seem to just be keeping people stuck going round in circles. I think there's a huge crossover there. But I'll let you say what you think and to introduce yourself as well, Fiona.
Well, thanks, Natalie. I agree 100%. I think there definitely is a crossover in a number of areas. The clients I work with are women senior leaders, and they're speaking to me often because they're stuck in terms of their career, or they're in an environment that isn't working for them. Their confidence isn't what it once was, and they feel like they're on a downward spiral to a certain degree. Yet they're hugely ambitious. So they really feel keenly they've got an issue and they need some support and help with it. And that's where I see there's a crossover between the two, but clearly there are differences. For me, I'm Fiona Kearns. As you say, I'm a business psychologist with a background in IT and telecoms and nonprofits. I'm also a mum to three boys, three young boys, a 5-year-old and twin 3-year-olds. So it's pretty hectic with me, and have a husband as well, luckily, who's a great cook, by the way. So that's amazing.
Nice.
If anybody's looking for a tip and a partner, find somebody who's a great cook. It's brilliant. I like to run, but don't run as much as I'd like. I love public speaking, and I just say that because a lot of people hate it, and it makes me stand out a little bit, and we all want to stand out a little bit. So that's my piece to say.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Fiona. So I'm with you, by the way. So before we came on, we were chatting also about kind of parenthood and the ups and downs of that presents its own challenges in our working lives, as well as, you know, what we're dealing with day to day. So, you know, we can definitely empathize with one another, and some of the people listening, I'm sure, over that. But I'm just curious, so thinking about your last week in clinic and the clients that you've been seeing, what have been some of your reflections over this last week?
My reflections have been in the area of trust. I find myself providing validation to clients quite a bit, because if you're in an environment where you're not supported and you're senior, or perhaps you run your own business, it can be quite lonely. And if you're a junior, you have a manager giving you feedback saying, well done, or not well done, or, sometimes nothing. Yes, I accept that can happen. But if you're in this vacuum of no feedback, or certainly no good feedback, it's very difficult for people to deal with things. And if there are challenges, they always look to themselves as being the source of the problem. Now, ostensibly, that's a good thing, to take responsibility for things around you. However, not everything is your responsibility. So people take on more than is due to them. So I often see myself, or find myself, reflecting back on situations and calling out perceived wrongs. So somebody didn't treat you very well in that meeting, and that can be a real revelation, because people have lost trust in themselves in terms of being able to call that out themselves and get some validation around how they behaved and what they did. So this, for me, is a theme that comes up again and again. And part of my role is to help my clients build up their own trust in themselves again. Chances are, in the past, they've had that, they've trusted themselves, they didn't have to overthink things, they just did it, boom, boom, boom. But now they're second guessing themselves, they're wondering, they're looking around to the wrong people sometimes for that validation, which makes them look weak. And we're into this cycle of them feeling not so good about themselves. So trust is the piece that I've been taking away this week in terms of my client work. And it's just so important, because without having that trust in yourself, you spend energy thinking about it. And it's just energy that will be much better spent doing and thinking about the things that will help you, instead of it taking away from what you want to do. So I view it that this trust in yourself is fundamental. And I would encourage people to figure out ways that you can build up trust in yourself. And I have a little tip I'll maybe share in a while, if there's an opportunity, that I use myself and share with my clients as well.
Yeah, I mean, that would be great. And I guess what I'm hearing you saying is a bit about sorting things out. So knowing about, yes, taking some responsibility, knowing what's within your control, or, what's about you as a person, but also putting things back in the right place. And knowing when, things belong elsewhere, or that situations have occurred, not because of anything that you have done or any wrong of your own, and perhaps not letting some of that I guess kind of shrink us back or take us into the background, so that we're feeling that we can't then do the things that we want to do in order to trust ourselves a bit more and to be more out there. And I guess that probably becomes more challenging the more that we're progressing in our careers, and the more maybe it feels higher risk, or there's more at stake. Maybe I don't know, maybe you see that there's a difference in that depending on where you're at.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. It comes from a place of being lonely and not having the support. It's not really about lonely, but feeling alone, feeling that it's riskier to put yourself out there, perhaps having less allies. And as you go towards the top of an organization in terms of seniority, there are less people anyway. So you may have a smaller pool to draw from. And you may not have a role model within that cohort as well that you can look to. Or it might be somebody who doesn't have your style of leadership. So, you can struggle with that. So I would agree with all the points that you made there.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting. And I guess, so you mentioned some tips. So yeah, absolutely. And I was going to ask about that, if there's something that, within maybe doing that work that you have helped your clients with, and people that are listening to this might benefit from, and maybe it is working on that particular thing around trust, but, a useful takeaway perhaps again from your clinic and the work that you've been doing on that.
This is a really simple one, and it's about trust. It's about building up your confidence. It's about recognizing your wins. It's all of those things. And this is an A4 sheet of paper, and you can type it, or you can handwrite it. But this is about cataloging all the wins that you have every day. So when you do something that was a challenge for you, or you had a difficult conversation that went well, or somebody gave you positive feedback, it's about noting those down. I like to put the data on it, so it keeps it top of mind, allows me to go back to it. But this act of writing it down makes you recall it, it makes you think about it more. It actually is useful for helping you think about other things you've done that day as well, but that's perhaps a lesser point. But what it allows you to do when you have a day or a week where you're not feeling very good about yourself, and you're having that wobble, you're giving out to yourself, your inner critic has gone into overdrive, and you're thinking, I haven't done anything the last week or month. You can go to that and call out the things that you have done and you have achieved. So you're kind of building up that confidence and kind of defeating that inner critic to a degree, because you can see the stuff that you have done, you have achieved, and you can trust yourself that you have achieved those things, and you bring them back out for yourself. Trust is very closely connected to the confidence and belief in yourself. I view those as all interconnected in so many ways. And that's a really quick one that you can do. I print mine out and put it up on the wall. You can have it on your computer or phone. Really simple, but it helps you get through the tough days, and is also very useful in order to build up that trust in yourself.
Yeah, I really like that practice. And I think, like you say, it's almost that practice of paying attention, isn't it? That when we're feeling self-critical, we're very good at paying attention to what hasn't gone well, the things that we haven't done, that kind of conversation that was a bit awkward. And we're very good at tuning into all of that. And maybe we're not so good at paying attention to the small wins, the small things that have gone well, or even the big things. Sometimes we can find ourselves being a bit dismissing of them, or saying, oh, well, that was just luck, or attributing it elsewhere. So, I guess it, like you say, it's kind of getting hold maybe of those little wins, no matter how small they are, because of course it does accumulate if you're keeping a note of it. And I really love that you've got yours on your wall. That's a great idea. And it's hard, isn't it, in the digital world where we're so used to everything being on the computer, and these things just get lost, don't they, in the myriad of files that we have. So maybe that's important as well, that it's somewhere visible and visual, somewhere that we can actually see it, even in passing, perhaps.
Agreed. I love that. Obviously, I have all my files on my laptop, but I have a few key things that I have around me that keep me focused and allow me to just keep a check on the important things, because, as you say, those are things that can get lost if we don't if we don't keep an eye out for them. So that's something that's particularly useful.
Yeah, great. And so how about you, Fiona? How have you been taking care of your own mental health recently during, this very long year that we've been enduring, and lots of challenges have been coming up, but just, generally in your day-to-day life as well?
Good question. I would like to say I was doing lots and lots of things, but I definitely could be better. But one thing I am good at doing is I book time off, because I often find my days can run into weekends and things like that. So the thing I'm most proud of at the moment is that it was my birthday and I took the day off. Now, there are repercussions for that, obviously, because the work is still there. But I used it for all the guilty pleasures. I watched Netflix the whole day. I, just sat and drank tea. I didn't do any housework, any cooking, basically anything I didn't want to do. And I finished off with some rubbish food and some bubbly. I'm not sure if this is the advice you want to be sharing with people, but it was just, it actually feels wonderful. I'm so delighted I did it. And one part of me thinks it's a waste, But the other part of me just thinks, yeah, why not? Take a day off, enjoy yourself, do all the things you're not supposed to do. And it just feels a little bit of fun. And that's what I miss most about this environment where we're limited in terms of what we can do. I feel like I'm missing out on that fun and frivolous stuff. And to have a whole day where I did things that I wouldn't normally do, and essentially watch Netflix all day. I mean, when can you do that? Well, if you can't do it on your birthday, when can you do it?
No, I love it, and happy birthday, by the way.
Oh,
I think
thank you.
I think it's great because and I had a few self-care days off, and it's funny because I don't think I would have ever. I'm not sure if I've ever had a self-care day off. Can you believe it? You know, because I would have booked leave, like annual leave, and taken holiday and gone somewhere and done something. But this idea of like a staycation that's just for me, and I think also being a mum and a working mum and like always doing things for everybody else in the house and having a day where you're like, well, what would I like to do today? And what do I want to watch on the TV? And, you know, what lunch do I want to eat? Actually, you know, it's such a nice thing to do, I think. And actually it does relieve the pressure of having to go somewhere and do something. And what I've been finding really interesting, I don't know if you've noticed this, but I've been finding it really interesting, both in myself and in the people I've been talking to, is that there's a certain level of anxiety about going back out there in the world. And suddenly all of that FOMO, that fear of missing out, has suddenly started to ramp up again. And of course, I've noticed like there's lots of things to book and the holidays to take and the festivals to attend and the activities and the socializing. And I've had, you know, people saying, I'm not sure if I'm ready for it. I don't know how I feel about this. And I notice it in myself. I'm like, well, I think I want to, and it's really exciting, but I'm not sure how that's going to feel when I'm back out there doing those things again, because maybe I've quite enjoyed some of the time watching Netflix or hanging out in the garden, you know. And so maybe we need to find a happy medium with those things. And I don't know if you've got any thoughts about that, if you've noticed it.
I definitely think so. I mean, being able to attend an event in your home office as I am today without having to you know, get ready, put my proper shoes on. Sorry, I'm only wearing house shoes at the moment. If I was going out, I would have my other shoes on. I'd be looking for a coat. How far away is it? Do I know how to get there? You know, all the ins and outs of it. And that's kind of vanished. All you have to do is make sure the broadband on your laptop is working and it's sufficient. So it's an interesting one. It's funny, I feel like there's something in this to do with playing small. It feels like our world has gotten smaller. That's the way it feels like to me. And some parts of that are really comforting. It feels like a hug. You know, I can do all these things at home. That's marvelous. But it also feels small in terms of hiding away from things as well. And we've been doing that intentionally. We're hiding away from people in effect. But there's another element there that we have to put on some armor to go out into the world as well. And do we want to wear that armor? Do we, you know, we have to be a different person when we go out into the world, and we have to play larger in order to do that. I don't have this completely developed, but I feel like there's something else at play there to do with that playing small and playing large in the world. So that's an interesting one. Maybe you have some thoughts on it.
Yeah, no, I think it's something that I'll be thinking about. And I guess like recent events, you know, in South London here have been really difficult with the disappearance of, you know, the girl in Clapham. And so I think it's added like an extra element of fear and anxiety of, you know, out there. And we're so used to seeing people in masks now. And so I think there's so many different levels to it, you know, and sometimes the things that we most want, which is seeing friends again, seeing family again, being back out in the world, sometimes those things that we most want, or progressing in our careers maybe, sometimes there's a bit of a backstory, isn't there, that we have to work on as well about, you know, how's that feeling and what's going on for us in those moments. And I guess just having these moments of self-care, whether it's a self-care day or whether it's I was talking to someone just about having a 10-minute self-care window in the day, you know, but actually those little bits of self-care that we can drop into our day and our week and our month just helps us to keep an eye on ourselves, really, in a way that we can look after our mental health. So
yeah.
Anyway, I shall let you go, Fiona, but it's been so lovely to speak to you today. Thank you again for coming on, and I will look forward to seeing you soon.
Fantastic. Thanks, Natalie. This has been loads of fun.
Right. Thanks, Fiona. Bye-bye.